Now let's look a little bit about how to use scripts in Foma and XFST. So here in my editor window, I have written out the script for, or most of the script for the Catalan phonology problem. And I'm using VS Code. There's syntax highlighting for XFST script for VS Code, also for Atom, but you can use any text editor you want, really. So here we have the file, and the last line right now is read regex, and then the composition of these different transducers. Now, in this directory where the script resides, I can type Foma -L, and that will load a script and not and then not exit, so that you can play with the result of loading the script in the interactive, the interactive prompt. So let's try that first. So we do Catalan.xfst, and we see that it goes through all of the FSTs that we've defined, gives us the final statistics, and then we get a prompt, and this is sitting on our stack, the result of the read regex statement. So now we can apply down, and let's take our favorite examples. Let's take san. It gives us sa, as it should. Apply down sant. That gives us san, as it should. So this can, so we can write this in a script, and then we can play around with it and test it using the interactive interface. And that can be quite useful when you're debugging things, being able to move back and forth, not having to retype things every time, but still being able to interact with things interactively. So sometimes you actually want to deal with a large number of data, and you don't want to retype it every time. So just as an example, I've given here are a few forms, the underlying representations that we have proposed for a few of the Catalan words in the data set. And let's say we want to apply our FST to all of these. How would we do that? Well, there's a convenient program called flookup. So if you go flookup.h, then we have some help for it, what the different command options are. And the ones that we'll be using are, the one that we'll be using is this -I, inverse application, because by default, flookup applies up, and we want to apply down in this particular case. So let's see how this works. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add at the end of our script, save stack, and then some file name, and we'll call it Catalan.fst. Then we want to run this script. Instead of using the L, I mean, L would still work, but we can use the F option, which runs the script and then exits. So what this is going to do is run the script, and the last line in the script is going to save the stack to a file called Catalan FST. And that's exactly what it did. Now we can use flookup. So what we're going to do is run flookup and then give the option to invert the transducer, and then give the name of the stack that we want it to use to apply this, that we want to apply to a whole bunch of data. We're not using really a whole bunch of data, just a few, but you could use a very large number of data. And then less than, and then catalan.txt. What the less than does, if you're not familiar with, and you have to do this, I think, a little bit different on Windows depending on what you're using. But less than reads in to the program from the file as if you were entering it, as if you were, as if it was coming from standard out, it's called. So flookup normally looks at like what you're typing in, and instead we want it to look at what is in a file. So that's why we do it this way. And so here are our results. And we note, so here we have the underlying representation. Here we have the result of applying the rules to it. So we see that for these cases, our rules get it right. Well, almost. There's one mistake, which is that I used the wrong kind of G. This is a beginner mistake. The IPA G is different from the normal ASCII G. So this hopefully would fix it. No, it didn't. Anyway, the point of this is to say that you can, so this G should be a gamma. And the point of this is to say that you can test and see where your grammar is falling short, where your set of rules are inadequate, by running a bunch of them through flookup and looking at what the results are. Okay, that's all for this video lesson. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you.